72 seconds. That's the entire lifespan of the strangest thing humanity has ever caught. Coming out of deep space it appeared, it screamed once, and then it was gone for good. Nearly 50 years and countless searches later, no one has heard it again, not a single time. The telescope that caught it was torn down in 1998 and paved over into a golf course. Yet the mystery refuses to die with it. I'll show you the single red ink Mark I exhausted volunteer scribbled onto a sheet of computer printout late one night, a reflex more than a decision that accidentally became the name of the most haunting riddle in Printout, End AGNA. The search for alien life. But first you need to know what that machine sitting in an Ohio field was even built to hear. Here's the part that keeps people up at night. This wasn't a faint blip you'd squint at. It was roughly 30 times stronger than the normal hum of deep space. It landed on a frequency scientists had specifically agreed aliens would most likely use to say hello. And it came from a direction with no obvious star, no planet, no satellite that should have been making any noise at all. One channel out of 50 lit up like a flare while every other channel stayed dead silent. To this day, there is no accepted answer. Not a confirmed natural cause, not a confirmed human cause, not a confirmed alien one. It sits in a category almost nothing in science gets to occupy. A single, powerful, unrepeatable event that we measured precisely, studied for decades, and still cannot close the file on. So, before anyone tells you it was definitely aliens or definitely nothing, let me walk you through exactly what happened that night, because the real story is stranger than either ending. Keep one number in your head as we go. 72 seconds. That's not a random length. That exact duration is the fingerprint that tells us this thing was out in the cosmos, not buzzing from a passing truck on a nearby road. Why 72 seconds, of all numbers? Hold that thought. It becomes the single most important clue in the entire case, and most people never even hear about it. Rewind to the early 1970s. At Ohio State University sat a radio telescope so big and so strange-looking that locals nicknamed it the Big Ear. Picture a metal structure the size of 3 football fields, flat reflectors, and a giant tilted wall of aluminum, all aimed at the sky. It didn't swivel to chase objects across the night. It sat perfectly still and let the slow rotation of the Earth drag the entire heavens across its frozen line of sight. The Big Ear had been drafted into one of the boldest projects in human history, SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The idea was almost absurd in its simplicity. If an advanced civilization out there wanted to be found, they'd probably broadcast a radio signal across the void. So humans built ears and listened. For years. Quietly. Scanning star after star, mostly hearing the dull, indifferent static of an empty universe that never once answered back. There was one specific frequency they cared about most, 1420 megahertz, the natural radio note of hydrogen, the most common element in the entire universe. Scientists reasoned any curious alien would know hydrogen is everywhere, making that frequency the obvious cosmic meeting point, like agreeing to gather at the one landmark every traveler can find. By international agreement, that band is kept clean. Almost nothing on Earth is even allowed to broadcast there. And here's why that matters. If a strong, narrow signal ever showed up right at that frequency, it couldn't easily be your microwave, a radio station, or a passing jet. Those are banned from that band. A loud, clean voice on hydrogen's channel would be exactly the kind of message SETI had spent years praying to catch. That was the trap they'd quietly set across the sky. And for a long, long time, nothing ever sprang it. Then came the night of the 15th of August 1977. The telescope was running entirely on automatic, scribbling its readings onto stacks of computer printout in a strange code of letters and numbers. No human was watching in real time. The machine simply recorded whatever the sky sent down, and on that particular pass, the sky sent something it had never sent before. But nobody knew it yet. The paper just kept printing in an empty room. A few days later, A volunteer astronomer named Jerry Eman took the stack of printouts home to review by hand. Page after page of background noise numbers hovering around 1, 2, 3, the boring breathing of empty space. Then his eyes hit a vertical run of characters that didn't belong. 6, E, Q, U, J, 5. Here's where it gets really interesting, because to a trained eye, that little string of symbols was a scream. Let me decode it. On that printout, low numbers meant faint noise. After 9, the scale jumped to letters A was 10, B was 11, and so on up the alphabet, so that U was not a typo. That U meant the signal had climbed to roughly 30 times the normal background. It was, by a wide margin, the most intense narrow signal the Big Ear had ever recorded from the deep cosmos. Eamon reached for a red pen. He circled the sequence, and in the margin, almost without thinking, he wrote a single word that would follow him for the rest of his life. Wow. He wasn't claiming it was aliens. He was simply reacting, the way any of us would, to a number so far off the chart it didn't seem real. But that one scribbled word became the permanent name of the event. To this day, scientists around the world call it simply the wow signal. Now, back to that 70-second number. The Big Ear couldn't track a moving target. So any real cosmic source should drift through its narrow view in about 72 seconds as the Earth turned rising in strength, peaking, then fading away. And that is exactly the shape the wow signal made. It rose, it peaked, it fell. Right on schedule. Whatever sent it was not sitting on Earth. It was out there, in the dark, precisely where you'd expect a star, except there was no star. The signal came from the constellation Sagittarius, off toward the crowded heart of the Milky Way. Astronomers stared at that exact patch of sky and found basically nothing remarkable, no obvious star, no known object loud enough to do this. So they did the only thing left to do. They aimed back at it again and again to catch it a second time, because a real signal, especially an intelligent one, should repeat, right? It didn't. Eamon and his colleagues pointed the Big Ear back at that same spot in the days that followed. Silence. Over the following years, other astronomers swung far more powerful instruments toward Sagittarius. One team used a telescope dozens of times more sensitive than the Big Ear. Another searched that patch of sky more than 50 separate times. Every single attempt came back with the exact same answer. Nothing. Flat, empty, lifeless static. Think about how maddening that is. The signal was strong, almost impossibly strong. It hit the one frequency that practically screamed, "Look here." It had the perfect cosmic fingerprint. By every rule we know, it should have been findable again. And yet it behaved like a single knock on a door in the dead of night. Loud, deliberate, unmistakable, and then gone, with absolutely no one on the porch when you finally open it. But it gets even stranger. There's a detail most people never hear. The Big Ear had 2 separate feed horns, meaning it effectively looked at 2 adjacent spots in the sky at once, a few minutes apart. A genuine cosmic source should have tripped both horns, one after the other, as the sky drifted past. The wow signal showed up in only one of them, and to this day, astronomers can't even fully agree which of the 2 it was. That single gap has tangled the hunt for the source ever since. So what on earth was it? Over the decades, the theories piled up fast. Maybe a secret military transmission, bounced off space debris? Maybe a glint off a passing satellite? Maybe stray interference from Earth reflected back down? But each one ran straight into the same wall. That protected hydrogen frequency, the never-repeating behavior, and the clean cosmic rise and fall. One by one, the ordinary explanations kept slipping right through scientists' fingers. In 2017, a researcher proposed a tidy answer. A pair of comets, dragging faint clouds of hydrogen gas, happened to be drifting through that very part of the sky. Case closed, the headlines declared. Except the original Big Ear team pushed back. Hard. The comets weren't in the right spot at the right time, they argued. and comets simply don't shine that brightly at that frequency. Within a few years, the comet idea quietly fell apart. Then, in 2024, a team led by astronomer Abel Mendez offered the most serious natural explanation yet. Digging through archived data from the giant Arecibo telescope, they suggested a cold cloud of hydrogen gas got suddenly blasted by a powerful burst of radiation, perhaps from a magnetar, a hypermagnetic dead star, making the cloud flare up for a brief moment like a struck match in the dark. A rare, natural, one-time brightening. No aliens required. It's the best lead in nearly 50 years. But notice the word they keep using. Likely. Not proven. The Big Ear itself is gone, now demolished in 1998, paved over for a golf course, the most famous question in SETI history quietly erased from the Ohio landscape, and the signal has still never returned. Now you can see what that single red ink mark really meant. A tired man wrote one word, wow, beside a number, and almost 50 years later, that one word is still the closest thing we have to an answer. Heavy stuff worth a second watch. Like and subscribe if you want more of this. We'll be back soon.